And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Hey, today we're going to be going down into some temples. We're going to be going down some ruins. We're going to be looking and exploring some shrines. We're going to be trying to find some relics and relic runners. This is a game from Days of Wonder, and it's from 2 to 5 players. Plays 40 to 80 minutes. I'd say that's pretty accurate. Where you're going down and exploring and trying to find some relics and moving around paths. And exploring using rations. It's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at it and I'll show you what I think on the other side. Speaking of relics, check these things out. Great components of the relics. This is probably the coolest components in the game. Also at the beginning, everybody gets to take a player mat of the color they've chosen. This one is the black player. And each player mat has a male side and a female side. One of the sides will have a special ability, but it's pretty cool that no matter what the color you have, like in this case it's green, you get your own player mat and you could be either the guy or the girl. Pretty cool player mats. The artwork on this game is actually really great. So I'm the red player and I've got this all sort of set up with all my trails. I've got some toolboxes. I start with a toolbox down here. I have some rations which will help me explore. We'll talk more about this board later, but let's get started on a turn. Well, there's base camp where you start, and that's where rations are that will help you gain more abilities to explore as it goes on. Now, as we zoom out here, we see the rest of the board. We'll see that there's different areas that have different colored temples. So here we have blue temples. And here we have white temples, and then here we have the purple ones. The purple ones actually are sort of special. They're already flipped up. You can see what's in them. The other ones are not. We also have some toolbox items here around all the different waters. And we also have some areas here that will allow us to increase our trail. So let's talk about these ruins. So on your turn, first thing you can do is move. And when you move, you can move on any unfamiliar trail once, either at the beginning or the end of your movement. At the beginning, any unfamiliar trail is any trail that does not have one of your little trail markers of your color on it. So at the beginning of the game, obviously you can just move one. So maybe I move to one of these ruins. And after you move, you have a chance to explore. Now you have 3 of these rations that come at the beginning of the game. You spend a ration, it goes back to base camp, and you can explore with whatever you're on. If you're on a ruin, this allows you to add a trail to anywhere adjacent. So you could put a trail here, or here, or here, or here. So let's say I move it here. Now that would be my turn. Now let's say it came around, the other people had already moved, and let's say now it's my turn again. And let's say, just for example, I was in the base camp. Your first or last move can be on an unfamiliar trail. So I have an unfamiliar trail here, and I have a familiar trail here. I can move like that on my next turn. And if I wanted to, I could spend a ration to explore this, which is a temple. Now the purple temples, they're flipped face up. They're the only ones you can actually see what they are before you get there. In this case, it's just 3 points. So I would just take this, I'd put it on my board, my player board, and this reveals what the next is going to be here, the next little sort of reward, which allows you to move one of your trails. And that's how you move and explore. Now, your familiar trail could actually be at the beginning or the end. So in this case, if it was my turn again, I could go on a familiar trail to start, and then go on any unfamiliar trail to end, any one trail. So as long as you have trails that are linked, for example, you could start on an unfamiliar trail and then move familiar, or you could start on familiar and have a last movement on an unfamiliar, as long as your chain continues with your movements there. So that's how you pretty much move in this game. Now these purple ones, like I said, are ups, the right side up, so the next person that got these, and typically as you go down they get better. This allows you to, again, take any one of your trails and swap it with some, put it somewhere else. This allows you to get an additional toolbox, so you could take your second toolbox, put it down here. We'll talk about what these do here in just a moment. Now the blue temples are just points, so if someone were to go here and they were to explore and spend a ration, they would get this and they would get points. They look at this and they put it face down, so they would get 4 points. And all the blue ones, when the next person came here and explored, they would get, oh, this one's only 2. And the last person, what they do here, it would be 5. That brings me to the next thing is, what happens when someone explores the last part of the temple? Well, once, let's just say this yellow guy explored this, he got the 5 points. He wouldn't show this to anybody. This would be secret. He'd put this down on his board face down. And as soon as this happens, since we were on a blue temple, a blue relic appears, and it's now sitting there. Anytime you get to the bottom of a temple, that color's relic gets there. So as the game goes on and those temples get all explored by everybody, relics will show up. So this was one from the purple, it was standing there right there. This was one from one of the white temples. This was one from one of the greens, and we have another one that's blue. Now, on your turn, on your next turn, let's just say it came around, it was the yellow player's turn again. That was the end of his turn when he explored that. We have, look at this, we have a blue relic here, and we have a trail that goes to here, to here, to here, to here, to here. Let's even just say this one wasn't there, because you remember you can always move on one unfamiliar trail at the beginning or the end. He could do what now it's called a relic run, where on his turn, he could go here, all the way here. He uses this unfamiliar trail, and he goes to this relic, and he gets to collect this relic. Now, when you collect a relic, you score a lot of points because you get 2 points for every trail that you went on. So it'd be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So he would have gotten 10 points for getting that relic, and he has a relic. We'll talk about some end game scoring and how those relics help you. But that's pretty much how you score when you're getting relics. Now there's certain rules, like you can never go through base camp. Anytime you get back to base camp, you have to stop, so you can never get a relic through base camp. And when you're there, you can pick up more rations to help you. So essentially you're going to be exploring and getting rations and putting them back and going to base camp and getting more. And that's sort of how the ebb and flow of the game works. There's these types of things here where if you go on a river trail, there's these toolbox. And when this happens, this turns over to gray to notice that you've used the toolbox. And when that happens, you essentially get to move any of your toolbox up one space in any one of these 3 tracks that help you do different things. For example, if I moved it up here, later on a different turn, I could exercise this and put it back down and move any trail from one place to another place. This one allowed me to do 2. For example, if I was moving it up this track and I activated this and it came down, I could perform the temple effect without using any rations. So there's all different ways that you can do here. Double your victory points. You score this turn, place a pathway in a trail adjacent to your location. There's all different things that you can do as you work these things up, and then you basically activate it during your turn, it comes back down. But to move those up, we do those toolboxes. The last type of temples, the white ones, the ivory ones, we forgot to talk about. These ones, the top ones. So essentially, these are ones that give you special abilities. So if you were to explore this, this stays with you. You could take 1 additional ration each time a player moves on a pathway on the board. That would be pretty cool. If you were to get this one, these are the second level ones are usually one-time use discarded. So you could teleport to a temple. When it says not a shrine, the shrine is the lowest level, the bottom floor of any of those temples. So you can teleport to any of those temples of the same color as the one you currently occupy. Boom, so you can teleport to this side of the board, which is pretty cool. And then this last one here, let's give you an example of what some of these do. At the game's end, collect 3 points for each ivory tile you have in front of you. So some of these you're keeping in front of you. You can never have 2 of the same size. So if I got a second small one, I would have to discard it. But when you discard it, you get 2 points there. So it gives you a little thing. So they're basically the white ones give you special abilities, the purple ones give you special abilities, but you get to see them, and the blue ones give you points. And that end game scoring is triggered by depending on how many players you have, how many relics have actually been done, and then we go to that end game scoring. And once the game ends, essentially you're going to count up your relics. For each different type of relic, you're going to get 5 points. So even though I have 2 greens, that's only 5 points between the 2 of them because they're both the same. So I would get 5, 10, 15 points for my relics. Plus, I might have a bunch of these points in the back of my on my board. And over the course of the game, I've been probably scoring a bunch of these point counters that I've been leaving face down on my board so nobody could see how many points I have. So you'd add up all your points here, you'd add up your relic points, and you'd add up all these points here, and the one with the most points is the winner. All right, well, there's Relic Runners. I was really interested in this game because Days of Wonder is one of my, if not my favorite publisher. They're the ones that really got me back into the gaming world, with Ticket to Ride and Small World, Mystery of the Abbey, Mystery Express. I mean, those are 4 games right there that I love and are very high in my collection as to how much I like them compared to everything else. They always have super good components, great rules. The board's usually beautiful. It's usually a family-style game, maybe a little bit more difficult than family, but they typically are great level games, the ones that I very much enjoy. So I was really interested in this. And I gotta say, at least from the artwork, the component quality, it's what you would expect from Days of Wonder. It is a great, fantastic production you would expect from Days of Wonder. You pretty much get that with every game they produce, and this is no exception. So what about the game itself? For me, unfortunately, the game was good, but for me, it wasn't anything excellent. It wasn't anything that really grabbed me, that made me want to keep playing it again and again and pull it off the shelf. So it's probably not one I'm going to be playing very often. I'm not even sure if I'm going to keep it at this point. I want to get some more plays with it, but it doesn't wow me. Now, there's a lot of good mechanics there, though, which is interesting, and I'm having a hard time placing what it is about it I don't like. Moving around, it has that spatial element. It almost feels like an abstract-ish game where you're trying to figure out where to lay the thing so I can go around and get this, and I'll set that up to get a relic over there. It almost felt a little abstract-y in that regard of that spatial element of moving things around. And then you have, of course, it felt a little Euro-y where you're trying to figure out, okay, do I go for the points in the blue temples, or do I go for those? Make sure I'm going through the toolboxes, and then once I get the toolboxes, which track do I want to go up? Do I want to go for the white ivories and get the special abilities, or do I want to go for the purple ones that I know what they are? So it kind of felt like a family game, but kind of like a little Euro game where you're trying to be efficient and see which track and which strategy you're going to go after and stick with it, and try to be efficient. And then you've got that sort of that family game aspect as well. And normally it just seems like everything meshes together well, but I can't really put my finger on what it is specifically I didn't like about it. It's not a bad game. It's a good game. But for me, it just wasn't the amazing. Days of Wonder, they're so great at what they produce, but the problem is that every time they produce something great, it just kind of raises the bar, and raises the bar, and raises the bar. And I think at this point now, the bar is so high for me for them that it's going to take another mega hit like Small World or Ticket to Ride for me to be like, yeah, oh man, this is great. So it is a good game. It's not a bad game. It's not a great game. I might be in the minority of this. Z from the Dice Tower, this was his game of the year in 2013. Tom really likes it. I know Joel Eddy, a reviewer, really loves it. So some people I've talked to really love this game. So this is going to be one that you're probably going to want to try before you buy. I was lukewarm on it, but other people have loved it. Mechanics are great. Production's great. Just for some reason, it just didn't grab me. Relic Runners.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.